Thank you, Count Corla. This is, and I want to thank Sinn Féin for the motion. This is a very pertinent motion, Minister, because my own father is in an ambulance on the way to UHL at the moment. I'm just off the phone, that's why I'm in and out of it. He has been quite unwell lately. Both my parents have been quite unwell for some time, so the last thing he ever wants to do is go into UHL. Forget about the politics now for a minute. This is my father. The last thing that man wants to do is go into UHL. That's a terrible indictment on all of us. Because, you know, I was told previously that anyone over 80 would be prioritised. That went out the window, as we know. And he is dreading what he's facing into. I've been in there loads of times with him previously, where he's been on trolleys for days. A young man from Limerick who was sick, who was in his 40s, offered to swap bed for his trolley, and they wouldn't allow it the last time he was in there. So I don't know what I'm facing into over the next hours, days, weeks. But it's an indictment that a man who worked all his life, worked hard, is absolutely crying and dreading going in there. Because anybody from where I live, and I live very close to Limerick Hospital. In fact, I live probably closer than some of the other TDs in the Midwest, even though I'm in Tipperary. They just don't want to go in there because of the situation we've been left in. And it's an indictment on us all. That people at that age, 85 years of age, that they have to worry so much, not just about what is wrong with them, but also about the service provision and how that could affect them. And are they worse going in? Anybody, Count Corla, of a certain age in the Midwest would say the same thing as my father says to me. They just don't want to go in there. The amount of times I've heard people say, I'd rather stay at home, face the consequences. What in the name of God is going on when that is the scenario? I've spoken on this topic more than I've spoken on any other topic in my political career. It's the reason I got involved in politics. Inside in my office here, I have a placard from the mid-noughties, No to Hanley. Then there was teamwork, then there was everything else. I would just like to ask a few questions, because I don't want to repeat all the stuff that I've said inside here again, because I don't have the time. Obviously, what happened to Aoife Johnston is absolutely a disgrace, and there was more than her. It's a failure of the system. But it's a failure of the system, dare I say it, that was predictable. We don't know what has happened down through the years. Because the simple facts of the matter are the decisions, and I'm not just talking about the A&Es, the decisions in total in relation to centralising everything in UHL was utter madness, because it wasn't following through on the resources. And the country was going down the tubes at the time, so it was never going to happen. And the people of the Midwest, Count Corla, have been the guinea pigs for reconfiguration. We've been the guinea pigs, and we have suffered. And the community services just can't deal with it because the acute system is so bad. They just can't deal with it. We simply don't have the community facilities either, because the acute system cannot and will not be able to deal with it. And I don't care who, and there's been various people in charge of the acute and non-acute systems across the Midwest since I've been 20 years in politics. But over the last, those 20 years, I don't care who was in charge. I'm not sure how anyone could ever manage it. It is that bad. Some really good things happen outside of that. Inside in Limerick, they developed the best cancer service in Ireland. I know all about it, in Ireland. But at this moment in time, in the last number of months, that now is suffering. And this is one point I do want to raise with you, which I haven't raised before. Please look into this, because I have a lot of people who are very worried about this. There was never waiting times for chemotherapy in Limerick. In fact, it was very efficient. I had more people complimented than I've eaten dinners. It is an amazing service run by amazing people. But the lack of specialised nurses there at the moment means that now there is a prioritisation list. So basically, depends on how far your cancer is, all the other metrics. And that is absolutely deeply worrying. So please, will you ask how we can get the required specialists, and they are specialist nurses, as you know, into that system again to ensure that that doesn't exist. Because those people, certainly, of all the people who go in outside of trauma, they are the people we need to prioritise. And they are now suffering. It's gone so bad, Minister, that scalp cooling has now ceased because they can't do it anymore. They don't have the capacity to do it. And you know, for patients, because of cancer, scalp cooling is very important. It's a real issue. And I'm saying this, park the politics for a second. Please, the cancer service inside there, as bad as the situation is inside an UHL, getting in through the system, the cancer service there. KPIs up until a year ago were the top in Ireland. They've now dropped. And that's down to resources. I want to acknowledge former clinical lead inside there, Jerry Burke, who for many years fought with the system, to his own detriment, may I add, pointing out the resource deficiencies in the Midwest. I accept that progress has been made in it. It's badly needed. It's as obvious as the eyes in our head. But Minister, may I just point out that in your speech there, and I hadn't come in to say this, you said the 96-bed block will be open in the first quarter of next year. The Chief Executive of the HSE last weekend said it'll be mid-year next year. No, he didn't. I listened back. Yeah. He did. He said it'll be mid-year. I know. Do you know why I always watch that in particular? Not just because I need it, we need it. It's because the opening of our famous nursing home in Nenagh is dependent on it. Because when that opens, our nursing home returns into a nursing home. I also want to point out to you, which should never have happened, but anyway, I might also point out to you, MAUs are meant to open 24-hour. That's not going to happen. I think you acknowledge that that's not going to happen now, in fairness. I think you've actually kind of said that, or else Bernard has, I'm not sure which. That's not the issue for me. Then that moved to, they'd be open up until midnight. That's not going to happen either. I just spoke to the nurses in Nenagh. There isn't a hope in hell. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the consultants. They don't have the capacity. They don't have the diagnostics. They don't have the bloods. They don't have, in any way, shape or form, the means to do that. And I'd love if that's open, because I'm a massive fan of the MAUs. They prevent people ending up in the hospital. But the other issue is this, is that because of the lack of beds, because the fact that we have a 50-bed nursing home sitting right beside the hospital that is now has 18 or 20 people inside in it, if you look at it, the actual numbers on trolleys and overcrowding hasn't made any difference, because the people inside in the actual hospital now can't go anywhere. They can't get into a nursing home. I spend hours every week trying to get people into nursing homes. Hours. I ring as far as Burr, Portlaoise, everywhere, because our nursing homes are full. You're waiting for somebody to pass away. And we have a nursing home there that literally is not being used. And it's counterproductive because the actual people who need to go into it are staying in hospital. I put in a parliamentary question some time ago about the average length of time, or the most length of time. Was it over 6 months, over 9 months, over a year? Absolutely startling, the amount of people who spend more than 6 months in a hospital because they can't go anywhere. And we need to deal with that. They can't go anywhere because some of them are so high dependency that no nursing home privately will take them. That is how stark it is. And they're taking up beds at €1,600 a night. So even if you look at it from a financial point of view, it's madness, let alone the fact that we need to be considerate to these people and their care. So, Minister, please deal with the issues in relation to cancer care in Limerick. I ask you to look into that. That's from the horse's mouth. Please readjust in relation to the MAUs. I respect what's going on the capital side. Those dates are not going to be met, I can tell you that, but hopefully they'll be as quick as possible. But most of all, when it comes to the pathways for patients in the community and in acute care, including my poor dad who's on his way now, they have to change in a positive way, in an interim way, in a medium way. We are not going to have all of these issues solved in the next year or two. So we need interim steps, interim pathways to manage these while we have these capacity issues.